Hey everyone, welcome back to Isyour6covered. Thanks for showing up. We are doing an interview with Gulch Gear owner Brian Tindall. Hey Brian, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Appreciate you showing up. It's nice to actually get to finally meet face to face, which is pretty awesome. Or as close to face as you can get, I guess. For now.
Yeah, this is awesome. I've never done a video chat, so this is kind of cool.
Well, I'll tell you what else is cool is your stuff, man. I really appreciate the chance and opportunity to take a look at this stuff and do a review on it. And I don't know if you've seen some of my other videos. If the stuff sucks, I'll either not do a video about it and just tell them there's no way I'm going to put this out, or I'll say it sucks, you know. And what's nice is when the gear showed up, I was actually very, very impressed. So
yeah, it's interesting. The challenge with the camouflage is photographing, and it's hard to photograph because it is, you know, so variegated, and the way light interacts with it and everything, to try to get a really nice crisp picture of it, it just never seems to show up the way it looks in person. So people's first impression when they see it, they're, you know, pretty blown away, and you know, as some people have said, they want to touch it because they think it's actually got a little bit of 3D volume to it, even though it's just a flat, you know, print.
Well, and that's what's crazy. The after I did that one video, there were some good comments on there when I put the hat, when I put the boonie hat on, and I threw it on top of the pants, it just kind of went invisible, you know. And
yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Well, to give you an idea of how the camouflage was developed, it is, you know, most people when they kind of do camouflage, they're looking at environments and whatnot and trying to emulate it a little bit. I kind of looked at it as the same way that we told stories when I worked at Pixar. The idea of the audience, you want to be able to direct the audience's eye. You want to be able to get them into the story without taking them out of the story. So what we work with is your positive and negative space, and the way light interacts with that positive and negative space. So thinking about the way that worked as an approach, it allowed me to kind of, you know, think a little bit differently on developing this. And it's very variegated, and that positive negative space. And one of the things, if you look up at a tree in a canopy and you see that positive negative space, in other words, the sky is coming through as light and you got the darker of the tree, and then you look at that variegation in there of the different colors and the way light's interacting with them. At Pixar, we wanted to be able to point you to look at a certain part of the screen without taking you out of the story. So not a big depth of field, without somebody going, hey, look, you're supposed to be looking over here. And with my camouflage, it's meant to direct and deceive the eye. So, hey, we want you to look over here, but if you look away and then try to look back, you just end up disappearing a little bit more, so you lose them.
Yeah, we already got a question out there from Daniel, and his question is, are you going to incorporate mesh into the hat to prevent sweaty head? Well, I can tell you, I wore this hat not all day yesterday, but a good majority of the day yesterday, and it's so light, and you can see the perforated holes in it. And I'll let you answer, obviously, Brian, because you may have plans of something, but it breathes really well. I mean, I'm in North Carolina, and it was pretty hot and humid and stuff, but I didn't have any sweat band. You know what I mean? I sweated, but just like any other hat. These ones, I sweat a lot more, and I can tell you that much.
Yeah, the hat's made out of the same thing the jacket and pants are. It's the manufacturer is Toray. They're out of Japan, and the Dot Air fabric was developed for the their Olympic summer team to keep them, you know, regulate their body temperature and keep them cool. And the hat itself is, I think, 1.4 ounces in weight. You know, it's super lightweight with a super short brim. The band that's on the inside of it is made from a mill over in, I think, your area there, somewhere in the Carolinas, and it's a really nice spacer mesh. There is no cotton in the band, so there's not something that's going to absorb. It's really meant for the air to pass through. But the The hat is highly breathable because of all those little micro pores. So you've got air constantly coming through and allowing that heat in your head to escape. But you know, it's like with anything with hot weather stuff, you know, the hotter it is, you just end up sweating. And you know, the sweatband is something that I made a decision on. Do I go with a full cotton thing? Do I want something to absorb and hold water, or do I want something that doesn't hold water, but air and moisture can, you know, evaporate through there and give you a little vap cooling? And so I chose the later to go with a nice compression mesh in there.
Yeah, it's amazing how light you were talking about. I mean, I remember when I got the package in the mail, I was like, what would normally be like maybe one shirt, or, you know, like one thick like BDU jacket or something, was the entire freaking whole set. I mean, it was, you put it on, as soon as I put it on with short pair of shorts on, you could feel like the breeze going through it and stuff. And I was like, man, this stuff's nice, because
yeah, it is different when you feel that air pass through, especially you know, if you're wearing the pants with no boxers or briefs or anything underneath it. You really can feel the air just, you know, passing right through it, and it's just different. You know, you can actually, what's neat about it, I like about it, is that when I'm hunting, I can actually feel the wind shift without really having to try to pay attention to the wind, because I can feel the wind or that breeze come through my left side or right side, because it's coming right through those micro pores, instead of, you know, going around your body and then trying to figure out where the wind's coming on a really, really, you know, calm day. This one, you can feel that change. It's neat.
Yeah. Well, let me get this going first in case people, you know, see this later and when it's not live. But Brian from the owner is giving us a go-ahead of doing a giveaway. And here's what the giveaway is going to be. It's going to be one pair of pants, one awesome pair of pants, one boonie hat, which is awesome, and one shirt that I don't have. It's in the garage. A long sleeve t-shirt deal. And if you guys are interested, we're going to be doing you're going to need to do a VR. Go to his website and take a look at his stuff and talk about basically on the VR, show his gear off via the site that he's on. Talk about what gear you'd like to see. And then that's one of the things. We're also going to be doing a Facebook one, and we're going to be doing Instagram. So that will be another chance to win some additional items: a hat, a shirt, a pair of pants. So if you guys are interested, look at that. Some of the things, the reason why I like Gulch Gear, besides the pattern probably being the best I've ever seen, is the fact that he's from the United States. He's making everything from the United States. He's doing everything he can to keep the money here in the United States. So he's a small company, which is awesome. All these big companies and big names, they don't care about stuff. They're just putting out camo that doesn't even really work, and nobody knows this small company. So really trying to push this and get his name out there, and hopefully it helps. Maybe someday old Brian will be a big company like all the other big names. So
Yeah, that was the biggest challenge that I wanted to do, is to build and make everything in the United States. And you know, when I tried, you know, I've been an animation fan my whole life, and I saw Toy Story, and I knew I wanted to work at Pixar. That just seemed like the coolest job in the world, but I knew it was going to take time to learn how to get there. So I set a goal for 5 years to get there. Over that 5 years, I wanted to learn everything that I could possibly learn about the animation industry from every different department. I was a character artist, and my job was a technical director. So I built and designed the characters in the computer, and then went ahead and designed and built all the controls into the character to make it move and to give it all the facial expressions. That process, to learn all that information, I wanted to be able to go into an interview and be able to answer a question and truly understand what they're saying. The same approach that I did learning the apparel industry, I just didn't jump into it and got a camouflage pattern and then found the quickest thing to manufacture it. I wanted to know everything about how to design clothing, how the patterns are made, how the grading's made, how the production and the components and how everything goes together. I became really good at sewing. These boonie hats, I designed and sewed up probably 20 of them before I was happy with kind of the way the fit and look on it was. But learning and understanding that, so when you're working with a pattern maker or a grader who takes that pattern and grades that to the different sizes, that I understood what they really were talking about, that I could, you know, I didn't have to be an expert at it, but I wanted to be very knowledgeable so that I wasn't going to get taken advantage of, or I can answer ask the questions on design wise, what makes something better than the other. So the process for that was about 2 years. I started in the fall of 13, working on this process, and basically I worked for about 2.5 years just getting the understanding of the entire apparel industry. And boy, I tell you, it's a challenge trying to make something in the United States. Every single thing for a component or fabric kept leading me outside of the United States. It's very frustrating to try to make something here. And then finding good manufacturers. I worked with a guy down in San Francisco in a factory down there, and after throwing away probably about you know, $5,000 in designs and in patterns and prototypes, it just wasn't going in the right direction, and I let that person go. And no hard feelings, it just, you know, the communication gap. I wanted to manufacture right here in Portland. I wanted to be able to drive to my factory or walk over there, basically. With that communication gap taken out, as soon as I started working with people here in Portland, my stuff developed much quicker and much faster, and we were able to get prototypes out, get them on the people, get them testing and telling us, you know, that feedback on what's happening, and move forward with the product. So the whole process of, you know, the apparel industry compared to, you know, because one of the things is, what does Camouflage have to do with animation and how do they, you know, correlate together? Well, both of them are production processes. You know, animation has a process, and, you know, it's, you know, manufacturing. And at Pixar, I didn't make and design characters. I manufactured a character and I sold it to the next department or sold it to my producer or whatever to get them to buy off, so it moved on. Same with, you know, the apparel stuff is, you know, trying to get a product quicker, faster, out, cheaper, and do it locally is just unbelievable for me.
Hey Brian, quick question. We got a couple questions out there and some actual hunters that are doing some comments right now. And they're saying the lightweight. And is there a warmer suit that you're working on? Are you doing anything more for hotter weather? Or I know you hunted all over the United States with this stuff. Are you just basically running layers underneath, or?
Yeah, that's exactly what I take my big LL Bean 850 down jacket and throw that underneath it, and I'm hunting in pretty much all elements except for when you get in the rain. And yes, the goal is to get into warmer and get into waterproofing stuff. The cost for doing that, if you make a mistake, can devastate you. Where with this apparel, and I think that's $16.50 a yard or something printed and all said and done, you make a mistake, it might cost you $2 or $3 grand if something's cut wrong or something. You know, just there's so many parts to it. I think there's 27 parts to a shirt, or I'm sorry, to a jacket. You can make a mistake. Well, making a mistake with this material versus some material that's $60, $70 a yard, it put me out of reach of, you know, I'd have to go in and try to find investors to do this. So it is coming for the Sportsman Show here in Portland next February. We hope to have prototypes for some waterproofing gear and possibly some warm weather. But still the big challenge there is I'm trying to find somebody who manufactures the material here in the States, and that is just the biggest hurdle. I went through, people know who Cordura is. Cordura is a big name like Polartec. So I was trying to look at some of the 100% polyester ripstop. And the reason it has to be polyester is because I'm sublimating on it. So I'm using millions of colors. It's not roll to roll printed. We only have 5 or 6 or 7 colors. So that led me to another company they sent me to down in LA. That's a mill, and yeah, they make it in China. And I don't want to import fabric from China. I didn't, you know, the Toray is milled in Japan. They have some great mills over there, where in these other companies, you know, I just don't know. I want to be able to work and go see the factory. So yes, we do have colder weather and waterproofing, but I think probably fall of 18 or fall of 19. Right now, I just want to build the business slow, grow. You know, I'd rather have 100 customers where I can deal and talk with them than, you know, thousands of customers where you know, it's not me that talks to you. I want to be able to be small and make my mistakes while I'm small. You know, I'm going to make mistakes. That's just part of manufacturing. It's part of developing something.
Well, let me give you a break there for a second. Okay. Just like what Brian said, if you go to his site and you call that number, you're going to talk to him, or you'll get a chance to talk to him. This is the only company I have ever seen, period, and I'm not that I'm out looking at every different company, but he has 100% transparency. This guy, Brian, you're very, you know, it's hard to talk good about yourself. I totally understand that. But if you go to his website, he will break down everything it costs, all the way down to shipping, buttons, thread, all that stuff, and it'll tell you exactly how much it costs to make it, and exactly how much the you know, the product or the money he would make from it. I have never seen a company that has 100% transparency. That's freaking, it's amazing. It's amazing. You can click right on the thing, and everything is there for you and God to see. It's crazy. So that's,
yeah, it's I look at it as kind of a way to build trust. There's companies that say, you know, we're 100% transparent. But if you call them up and ask them, hey, how much did it cost for that pant to be made or that jacket to be made, they're not going to tell you that price. With me, I call it radical transparency. I didn't make that up. I did a lot of research on transparency, and radical transparency is kind of acting like you're a public company and you're putting all that information out there. So if you go to my website and you go to the support page, radical transparency there, and it breaks down how much thread, how much yardage, what it cost. Everything's broken down there for you, and it shows you my margin. Then it shows you my margin if I put it on sale for 20%, what margin I have. And of course, this doesn't account for, you know, the free shipping being added in there and all these other things to affect the margin. That's basically just what it costs to build that. And I think, you know, to be an honest, 100% transparent company, that's just part of it. You know, it costs $60 to make this pair of pants. You know, probably could have had it made in China for $13.50. I probably wouldn't be having radical transparency if you knew I was making 300% margin on something where I'm trying to achieve roughly about a 50% margin.
Kevin Roberts brought up a question for tall and big guys, 40 by 36 pants. Is that something that you have? I know you have some extra large and double X.
Yeah, we're working on the fit for larger garments. Right now, the length of the pant is roughly 33. It feels more like a 34 though. That's what I like to wear. So I had it designed. What am I trying to say here? The pant that, let me see, the biggest pant is right now we just have is a 2X, and we do plan on making larger clothes like a 3X and a 4X and a 5X type thing for different gentlemen and gals. But what I think companies, from the research that I've done, is when you make a pattern, you know, I started out with a base pattern. It was a large, that was my size. Then you grade that, so you grade it to an extra large and a 2X, and you go down from a medium to a small. There's your 5 sizes. If you're really going to make it for a really, really bigger person or a really big and tall person, you really need to redraft that pattern and start out at maybe a 3X. That way you can go down to a 3X, to a 2X, to an X, and you can go up. Now those patterns are cut differently because you want a little bit more roundness let's say for your chest and your belly and whatnot, but you don't want your arms to be these giant gaping 35-inch armholes. And that's what happens with the grade, because you're using a pattern that really wasn't designed for that specific body type. So you pick a percentile, and the percentile I picked right now was kind of, you know, an average size and weight person, but you know, definitely we're going to go to size 36 and probably to a 32 in the length of the pant, and definitely go up to maybe 3, 4, 5, 6. But you know, that all takes a little bit of time and planning. And I don't want to rush the stuff and get it out here. You know, I don't want to make a mistake and then go, well, I had $50,000 worth of these made and just try to sell them to people. I want to make those mistakes in prototyping and in testing, and then get somebody that is a product that hopefully will fit.
Here's another thing that I thought was really cool. Now, when I go to a store and I want to buy a pair of shorts, I'm buying 34s, but that's not what I actually am, you know. And I had Brian had to send me a pair of bigger pants out because he's what you call real sizes. Real sizes means if you put a tape measure around your waist and it says a certain thing, that's a real size. Not where the company's trying to make you feel better about yourself. They're true numbers. If you wear a certain this, then you will know what you wear by the chart, and you go to the chart and it'll tell you what size you wear. Just because, you know, it tells you you're a skinny mini when you're really not a skinny mini, like myself. I'm not a skinny mini anymore. So Brian had to send out a bigger pair of pants, and which is really cool, larges, because now I can wear you know, under clothing layers in there and run these in the wintertime as well. So, and they fit perfect. So I'm glad I went with the bigger size, because I could almost button it, you know, kind of deal. I was like, I could lose a couple pounds, but I don't want to lose a couple pounds. I want to get something that's going to fit right and fit perfect. So when you order stuff, don't think about what you wear as a pair of pants. Look at the chart and how he tells you which one works best for you. And that includes the jackets and the pants. So
yeah, the idea with my apparel fit guide was, you know, I wanted to make something that made a little more sense. So what made sense to me is, hey, go find your favorite jacket or your favorite pant that fits great. Lay it down on the ground flat. Go ahead and measure the measurements that are similar to on my fit guide. And then with those, compare those measurements. That'll give you a ballpark idea. I look at, you know, fit on clothing. I'm going to make 33% probably perfectly 100% happy. They love it. The fit, everything's perfect. 33% are probably going to be, you know, hey, the fit could be a little bit here. It's a little baggy or a little here, but it's okay. And then 33% are going to hate it. And that is that percentile where you pick a percentile to design for. And if you want to make the 33% that hate it, you really need to take a look at that pattern and recut that pattern so it fits that type of body type. And then when you get into the women's line, it becomes even more challenging for that, because they have so many different shapes where, you know, us guys, we're kind of, you know, an upright rectangle, and then we fill out from there.
Well, I'll give you a good example of his cuts. So in the crotch area, you added 1.5 inches to what you would normally, was it 1.5 inches, Brian?
An inch.
An inch.
About an inch, yeah.
So if you wear a pair of shorts, like say you just buy a pair of shorts and you're sitting there, after a while, you know, it feels like starting to, you know, the inside is coming into your crotch a little bit. This when I was wearing it the other day doing that video, you know, I got to wear it most of the day, and it doesn't ever like ride up, even when you're like crouching over and pretend you're hiding in the weeds and stuff for that one video I did. It was actually made to be able to work. Like work meaning like bend and reach and lay down and crawl and crouch and that kind of stuff. So I was thinking, man, so you did a good job on that. You gave us the extra room we need, or it's not riding up your ass and into your nuts.
Yeah, so that was fun because I had the pant done and I was happy with it and had a final sample made before I had a full sample set made. A sample set is you have all your sizes made for you, and your sample basically is your base layer, which is for me was a medium. And so I was happy with that fit. Walked around in it, it felt good. Went out, hiked around in it, and it felt really good. I thought this was awesome. And then I decided, it's like, well, I really got to test these on on sitting. So I sat on the couch and I watched TV, watched the tube for about 4 hours, and I started noticing there was a little more pressure than I wanted to in the crotch area there. And part of the reason was I was sitting on a really soft, cushy couch where you're really squishing down in, and it's got a chance to really put a low pressure on you. But I decided, hey, let's, talk to my pattern maker and said, can we drop this? It's basically the big U that goes up from the top underneath you up to your, fly. And so we added an extra inch there. So they were a 34 length on the inseam. And when we added that, it made it too long by an inch. So we took it off. That's why it's a 33 inseam. So basically you can take a pair of pants and you can lay them flat and you can measure just how deep that J is. And then, compare that to another pair of pants. And it'll give you an idea how that fits a little bit.
And this is the U you're talking about right here. You can't see it because it's camouflage, but it's basically if you take a normal pair of pants, then they made a piece that goes down like this, so you can actually, you're more mobile, right? Yeah,
it's got the gusseted, they call it the gusseted crotch. So you don't have a seam line that runs, right into your groin there.
Yeah, it goes this way.
Yeah, and it can be
goes that way.
Yeah, and it can if you've never tried on pants that have a gusset in them, it seems like most people have been making gussets for quite a long time. They can give you a little bit of a different feeling because you don't have a seam that's running from your fly, around underneath your butt there. It gives you a little more freedom. It's kind of like wearing a tight-fitting pair type of underwear, and then you switch to boxers. You really notice it right away, and they feel kind of odd and weird because you're not so supported there and whatnot. But after you get used to it, you're like, wow, I actually like this feeling because it allows for more air and whatnot to move through it, and then it keeps that pressure off you.
Exactly, and you can tell the difference as soon as you put them on if you're not familiar with pants like that.
Yeah, one of the other great ideas back on kind of the sizing on there is these are kind of based on the idea of the way the military graded theirs. It's got ladder locks on the side. They're Illinois Toolworks ladder locks. They are unbelievable. They're 1 inch locks that really grip super nice. And
what are you talking about?
The ladder locks on the side to adjust the waist on it.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. So
these are built beefy too. I like them.
Yeah, the interfacing on that on the inside is also a really good interfacing, not some cheap, crappy felt stuff. It's an interface made right here in the States, and that adds like that nice bulk to it.
Well, and the stuff on the BDUs is too thin.
Yeah, and it's a 3/8 inch webbing. It's cotton.
Yeah, this is way wider, way better.
Yeah, and bear hunting last year with it. I had a full sample set, took down to the guys at camp, and everybody was wearing it. One of the concerns was, is that going to pinch into my side? Is that ladder lock going to cause, if I wear a sidearm or whatnot? And I wore my 454 Casull for 10 straight days, 14 hours a day with that on, and I didn't notice it at all because of that. It does have extra the interfacing, and there's a quality interface and the thickness, and you can feel it. It's just beefy feeling.
Well, it's not that thin stripe cutting into your hip.
Yeah, and then the other guys were carrying 45s and 9s, and they were surprised. And will it work for everybody? I don't know. That's the feedback I'm looking for, and then from that feedback, I can take it to designing it better. That's one of the critical things for me about the apparel that I'm trying to design is the negative feedback is the best feedback for me. I'm a professional critiquer. I spent 20 years of putting my stuff on the wall at Pixar and just getting it shredded. And if people give you the positive stuff and then they kind of pussyfoot around the negative, you don't get the product back to you exactly the way you want it. I like, straight out, you think it sucks, that's great, but tell me why it sucks. Maybe help me improve it for other people that have the same type of opinion or fit problems that happen with apparel.
See, and I don't know what they could say they didn't like about it. Once you put it in somebody's hand, I'll give you an example on the cut on the pocket here for the wallet. You know, the back pockets. I like it because it's tight on the ends, so your freaking wallet doesn't slide out when you're getting off a chair or you know what I mean. You can get the wallet in and out, but you don't have to worry about it just popping out. And I like that you don't have the Velcro or a button back here, because sitting on a button all day, whatever, sucks ass. And then you don't have the noise of the Velcro, so that's huge. Then we got the one pocket, the BDU pocket on the left leg. That's not too big. That's a problem. If it's too big, you put too much shit in it. This is perfect for, like, you know, for the face mask or like some gloves or something, but not too big where you're gonna try to throw, you know, something big and heavy that's gonna be pushing on your leg all day long either.
Yeah, that was a debate that went back and forth on, you know, do I put 2 pockets on there? Originally, I designed it, I had no cargo pockets on it. I kind of wanted a clean look and lighten it up. And, you know, the cargo pockets also cost a lot of money. The way they're built and designed just takes more labor. And then after people were testing it, they said they need at least 1 pocket, you know, to put that's where I carry my lightweight face mask and my lightweight gloves and whatnot. I know that they live in that pocket. And then so 2 pockets or 1 pocket, and I went with 1 pocket just because the cost of the pants were so expensive to manufacture compared to the jacket. Pants cost more than jackets. Jackets sell more than pants. It's, you know, the industry to learn all these different things. So 1 pocket, no Velcro, no buttons, just try to keep silent. One of the things I wanted to do with the front, if you notice on the front pockets there, they're nice and deep. The back pockets are deep. You get, you know, your full hand all the way down in it. They're not.
Here, let me show these guys how deep, because it's nice, because it's not. So it goes that far down. Does that show to scale? Like, here, let me put my hand in there, I guess.
Yeah, you'll notice it when you put your hand in and like, wow, that's a deep pocket. And the idea was, you know, it's an open pocket. You want to put something deep in there, and it's down in there deep. And you know, hopefully that, you know, is a feature that people like, because it drives me nuts when, you know, especially for women, you know, they got all these pockets on their pants and whatnot, but they're all there for you can't put anything in them. They're like this deep, you know. And guys, manufacturing is getting to the point where if I can save 1.5 inches on these inside pockets, that'll save me a few pennies here or there. That'll put more money in my pocket as the manufacturer. Well, I'm not about putting a ton more money and saving 5 or 6 cents on cutting corners. I'd rather have it, you know, nice and deep. And that mesh is made in the States. It's a mil spec mesh. In fact, all the parts for the pants and the jacket, everything's made in the States. And I believe all of it's very compliant. Well, at least that's what that's what people tell me when I buy it from them. And I'm going to the manufacturers. So YKK, you can't buy YKK directly from YK. I mean, you can, but you a lot of times go through different distributors that you actually don't work with the actual manufacturer. You work with a representative. So depending on the manufacturer, but the YKK, those zippers are made in Atlanta.
You got Wicked Sensation out there saying, please don't use Velcro. It's too noisy. Yeah, for sure.
I did use Velcro on the cuffs, and the reason why on the cuffs.
Oh, let me show them this. Yeah, this is bitching.
Yeah. So the cuff on the jacket is long. So I wanted to make the cuff when it's late. Now, if you have basically a percentile where you're in the normal percentile, not super long arms, but I wanted so that when you have the Velcro undone, this guy's living down to the middle of your knuckles. And the reason for that Velcro on there is so that you can wrangle that back in so it rests back on your wrist. The whole point of making it longer like that is so that when you put your arms out like a zombie, that your wrists are still covered. You don't have this effect, which I absolutely hate.
There you go, right there.
Blood pants on your wrist, yeah. So that's the idea, to have that. So the Velcro, it's on there. You know, I thought about doing buttons. They're quieter, but
once you put this on, though, you don't really mess with it. Once you get it,
yeah, you set it and forget it.
Yeah, and you're done.
layering underneath it.
Yeah, this shit, I wish you could just like, you know, like they have a smell-o-vision. I wish you could have like touch-o-vision where they could like just feel this stuff. It's
Yeah,
and
I had a meeting with a couple of the SWAT leaders for one of the local counties here in Portland, Clackamas. And one of the comments that they made on it, they loved, you know, they liked the pattern. They liked everything about it except where they said it feels like pajamas. You know, their tactical work, they're on their knees, crawling and scraping and going nonstop. They said they probably would end up destroying this fabric, that if I actually made it in a heavier, you know, ripstop type thing, it would work great. But this is a nice soft fabric. It's amazing.
it's quiet.
Yeah,
it's quiet.
It's quiet. Now, the neat thing about this fabric is it's got a beautiful two-way stretch in it. It can really, you know, it's really got some great stretch with no Lycra or spandex in it. It's just Toray's patented spiral yarn. So when it moves without that extra weight and extra, you know, spandex in it that holds in that heat.
Yeah, you can.
A really great material. One of the things that I always tell people when they put a jacket on is go ahead and zip it all the way up and go like this, flex your arms all the way forward, and you feel this the way it stretches across your back. It's a really neat feeling. And a lot of people, when they try it on, I ask them, well, do you think you can layer underneath this? And they say, oh, definitely not. I'd have to go up to another size. And they go up to another size and like, wow, this thing's really big. And I say, I'll tell you what, take that jacket you came in with and put that jacket on and put this over it and see how that feels. And they put it on and they just can't believe how well it still fits, even though their mind says it should fit tight. It's just this really neat two-way stretch that it has in it. It's so...
Yeah. And one way is longer than the other, I've noticed. Like, you know what I mean? Like you pull it one way and it'll stretch a certain amount. You pull it the other way, it doesn't stretch as much, which is kind of cool. It holds in the shapes and stuff.
Yeah, it's called to explain it, a two-way stretch, four-way stretch. Some people might not know. Two ways, you can pull it one way and this way won't stretch. A four-way stretch, it'll pull both directions. A four-way stretch doesn't necessarily mean that it'll stretch this way 200% and this way 200%. You know, it might only stretch 50%, but that gives you that little bit of four-way stretch in there. This is considered traditionally a two-way stretch. It doesn't really stretch in the grain, but diagonal and horizontal, you know, you got fantastic stretch in there.
Let's see if I can show them. So it pulls like that, and then this way, not as much. It does stretch, but not as much.
Yeah, I've got a video on this material. Some, you know, some people
tell us more about this camo, the pattern.
Okay.
In the two colors, the two different models that you have for different environments, but also tell us. I think I was talking to Brian, which is a mutual friend of ours. It's the reason, or not Brian, Brian, and kind of the reason why I got to hook up with Brian was they were doing some hunting, but I talked to him. I think he was talking about how military can only have a certain amount of colors, right?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on how, you know, that, but from what I understand, basically it needs to be 4 colors, and I think it needs to repeat within 30 inches.
Yeah, this stuff has a lot more colors and never repeats.
Yeah, so basically you could call this millions of colors because it's sublimation, so it's done on CMYK. And the way it flows in and out of everything is basically like, you know, it's hand drawn. So it's a hand drawn pattern.
I'm gonna click on my picture, but you keep talking. I'll show these guys the pattern.
Yeah, so it's a hand drawn pattern, and basically there's a green zone, a tan zone, a brown zone, and a gray zone. And we have the name of the camouflage pattern is actually cross cover, and we have a cross cover brown and we have a cross cover gray. The gray is designed for sagebrush type environments, where the green or the brown's basically designed for, you know, every other environment. And what is unique about this camouflage is because I thought about it as storytelling using positive negative space. That's the pattern that makes it up, but how light interacts with that positive and negative space. So the color correction for this was based on, you know, not trying to make a colors in here so it's got some great shelf appeal or point of sale. So when you're looking at it in the store or whatnot, or a person, you know, you're buying it because of that. I looked at it with light. So if you're in a green environment, the light that comes through that and hits those green branches and whatnot, and it bounces off, that's called global illumination, or the light bounces and it picks up some of that color. So it picks up that green, and that green then falls onto the pattern. And then what that does is the greens in the pattern get added with that green, and they green up more, and the tans that are very warm in here, they get a green hue to them, and it actually cools the entire garment down color-wise, even though all the colors in it are warm colors. And vice versa, when you jump into a brown environment, let's say in the fall and whatnot, that light hitting that brown picks up some of that brown, and the greens you'll see in here, and you can see it on there, I don't know if you can see it on the computer, but these greens have a lot of brown kind of fading in and out of it. What it does is it adds that brown bounce color with the green, and then the brown that's already in the green, it adds to that. It subdues the green in it. So when you look at this up close, the greens are not obnoxiously bright, but some areas are fairly bright. And that, when you get it out in a green environment, that green really pops because there's not much brown in it. The best way to explain this is if you take a blue ball sitting next to a yellow wall, and a white light hitting that yellow wall will carry that yellow to that blue ball and make a green spot on it. Yellow and blue make green. And that's just the way illumination works. So the colors that we did for the gray and the brown, those weren't based on just trying to pick some colors. Those were based on trial and error after about 6 months of printing, taking it out of the environment, blue environments, green environments, brown environments, and then just seeing how that reacts, and then tweaking those further to try to get the best pop out of them.
All right, so we got another question out there. And this is a great guy that's asking these questions. He's survival equipment man. So he asks, is it treated with an anti-UV reflective?
It is not treated with an anti-UV reflection, UV lighting. And this is the easy reason why. The fabric is called PFP fabric. It's called prepared for printing. It's basically raw gray goods. It has none of that. So UV stuff that you see, that UV brightener, is actually a chemical process that they add into the manufacturing of it. So my stuff comes off the mill raw. That gives me the white point to print on, and that also gives me the ability that there isn't anything on there, so that UV especially, you know, now unfortunately there is UV in the interfacing, and that is just because interface has glue in it. That glue actually has a little bit of a UV signature. But I looked at super good quality fusible interfacing. If you take a pair of pants, take any camouflage pant and look at the belt line, cut that belt line open, and look at that interface in there, I guarantee it'll look like a piece of felt that's all smashed together. It's not glued in there, it's just sewn in. What happens is it lives in there floating free. That'll end up breaking down after washing and wearing, and that's why you get kind of weirdness in collars too, how they kind of get a weird kink in it, or on your fly especially. Your fly can get kind of this kinkiness in it that causes you know, a hiccup. So that interfacing is bonded, so it's actually glued right to the fabric. Unfortunately, that glue has a little bit of a signature. Now I've got a UV light here. We took that UV light in to one of the studios that I worked here, and had one of the director of photography actually do a true measurement of that light and where that fell on the nano spectrum. Because when you think of UV, you have a blue light, basically, you know, black light. You put white underneath it, it's gonna pop. It's gonna glow really bright and pop. It could be no UV signature on it, but it's naturally, you're shining a blue light onto white. The white reflects and it brings that blue with it to your eye, and you see blue. So if you look at the interfacing on the belt line under an intense UV light, because of the little tiny micropores that are in there, you'll get little shimmers of a little bit of a pin prick of UV. Now you step back 6 feet and shine that same light on it, you don't see that signature at all, so it disappears. So I made the decision that a better quality, longer lasting interface with a hint of a signature that you can barely see, and especially when you step back, 10 feet from it, or 6 feet from it even, it completely disappears, was better than going with a cheap interface that basically is white and still has a glow. Even it was a trade-off. But to answer your question on UV signature, it's PFP, so it doesn't glow. Now here, let me grab this light. I don't know if you can see it. This is the light. I don't know. Can you see? You can see it on, I don't know if you can see it, but this is a Polartec Delta material. And this is basically a kind of a military looking zip up, 3/4 zip up. It has, this is not PFP. It does have a little bit of a signature on it, where this stuff doesn't have a signature on it. You can see where the white is. It'll throw a little bit from that reflection, but I don't know if you can see it on.
It's hard to tell. Look.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to tell. Those can't read it as well, or the cameras can't. But there's design decisions that you make on stuff. Do I go quality and have a little bit of this problem? Because I look at every design that I do, you have to have a balance of errors. If you have one gross error or two, it really shows out. Just like somebody walking down the road, if they're ever so slightly favoring one foot, you're like, oh, did you stub your toe or something? You can see that error. It's an immense error. But if you have balanced errors in it, I'm going to have errors in everything. Like when I did characters at Pixar, I might have 500 errors in this character. But since they're all balanced together, you don't notice them. And same with the clothing. You have to make decisions on cut and fit, and a little bit of a UV signature that could be on the inside of a belt line, but you're probably gonna have a shirt covering it. If it's there, it disappears over, when you're 6-10 feet away, it's already gone. And most animals aren't gonna be within 6-10 feet. They're gonna hopefully be well, that'd be nice if they were on that close all the time wearing this stuff, but they'll be a little more of a distant, 10 to 20 yards away, and they're not gonna see it at all.
Well, you've told me some great stories about a lot of animals getting a little too close because they don't see you at all.
Yeah, I worried about liability issues if you design a camouflage that's really nice and somebody gets hurt because they get shot because somebody didn't see them there. Almost to the point where I put a warning label on there. Now you'll notice on my website and most of the photographs that I've shown to the public, I'm right in front of the camera. And the reason we took pictures further away, like 20 yards away with a little bit of debris in front of us, little branches and whatnot, and they look faked and photoshopped and, just completely comp. So the only way it worked is actually be right in front of the camera. So all those shots and how well that, that variegation in the camouflage pattern, that positive negative space, seems to really, you disappear pretty well. So, I think
even that video I did, people were, when they were watching that video of the section where I'm walking through the forest and just stopping, they would look away for a second and then try to find me. And they're like, man, it's like as soon as you stop moving, you were like invisible. And even as I came closer to the camera, that you were still invisible. It's pretty badass.
Yeah, it's funny because our cameras and, film cameras and, our iris in those, that f-stop and the way that light looks in there, when you see it in real life out in the environment where, your blacks aren't being crushed so bad or your whites aren't being so blown out, it just works even better. And we've crossed the river on one hunt, and I forgot my backpack, so I went back to get it, and my buddy that was there, he was standing in some fairly open wooded area, and I came back, and when you get that feeling like, doggone it, I was just right here and he was right here, and it's like, oh, you're standing right there, I didn't even see you. And he was 25 yards away from me, but as soon as he moved I saw him, but that quick glance across, I couldn't. And people, with camouflage, what's so unique about this camouflage, this is basically, one of the design factors that I wanted to do in it is Camouflage to me, you don't need to be in camouflage to kill something. You know, everybody knows that. You play the wind right and play your movement, you can pretty much shoot anything. Where camouflage, I believe, is really important is when you're busted. And I've been busted by a lot of bears and by a lot of deers. And they try to go and do their head fakes on you. So they're sitting there and they've got you and they're staring right through you. You know, they're staring as hard as they can. So they're going to drop that head down, do that little head fake, and pop that back up. That's where the camouflage really works, because it's so variegated without any fractal through it. That it's just that positive negative space there. They actually then can't find you again. They're looking back and forth trying to find you, and they start to, you know, thinking that maybe there's nothing there.
I'm showing them pictures right now.
Oh yeah,
of your page.
When you go black and white with it, it's really amazing. I know that animals don't see true black and white. They see, you know, hooked animals especially. But
yeah,
if you're black and white, it's really crazy how well it works. Especially, that's the other thing that's neat about this pattern. That snow one you just went by right there. That's taken in Michigan, and
right here.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a person there.
Yeah. And then the one just to the left of that, that's taken here in Oregon. And, you know, I could shoot a bow at you from where I'm looking there. There's really not that much debris in front of me, but it's, you know, the positive negative space and fractals. So
like this one. Look at this one right here. You're just sitting there behind no cover. That's what's amazing about it.
Yeah, and I'm not photoshopping these guys up and trying to do trickery on them. I'm color correcting them. I'm trying to represent the best it looked from what I can remember in there. And then some of those other ones, some of the women ones that I put up there, if I do any trickery to it, I'm going to tell you in it. That's just straightforward. I comped this. It's a, you know, I put in there, it's a studio photo comped onto a background plate.
Well,
I think that's really important, because I look at the camouflage from a lot of these other companies.
That's these ones you're talking about, right?
Yeah, so those are all comp. But basically, I took a color corrected image under 54K, and then put it onto a background plate, and, you know, tried to not line it up so it disappears perfect. And there's a good example of you know, you said you threw that hat down on the thing and the hat disappeared when you threw it on in that other video.
Yeah.
That's what's neat about this camouflage. When you sew it together, it sews really well together. The way, you know, there's just so many cool happy mistakes how it's sewn together. It almost looks like an engineered graphics, like I meant to do that. It's just the way that it's variegated.
It's insane. It's insane when you have it in your hands.
Yeah,
I remember going, holy shit, this stuff's crazy.
Yeah, the
positive, it does look three-dimensional.
Yeah, the positive negative space in it doesn't, you know, it's not like a light source where you see a lot of camouflage patterns where they have the light source dropping down. It's there's a guy named Escher, I think is his name. He's the artist that did the walking staircase, and then he's all of a sudden back at the top, and it, you know, it's an optical illusion. That's the way I did a lot of this patterning in here. The light direction doesn't make sense. Light color is supposed to represent a highlight, represents not the highlight, but the opposite of it. It represents the light going through. That type of just different multiple directions change is just that variegated. Next time you're out outside, walk up and look up into the canopy into a tree that's got some light coming through it, and then remove that fractal of all those branches. That's that positive negative space, and just look how variegated and different each little splotch is, and the way the light comes through those leaves and changes the different color in that. And that's kind of like what I tried to represent, because when you've got a fractal, to me, in your camouflage pattern built in, when you match up with a fractal environment that's similar to that, it really works wonders. But when you're in an environment like that picture of me in out at Hag Lake here, in a complete grass field, I was surprised on how it still worked very well. And especially if you went 30 yards away from me in that grass field, you know, you couldn't even take a picture because it looked fake again, faked, you know, totally Photoshopped.
Yeah, Photoshop.
Not having a fractal built into this, I think helps it blend in a little bit better in environments that have fractals and don't have fractals, because if you remove the fractal, you still have that positive negative space. And when you stand in there and you block the fractal, you still blend right in. You get, you know, you look right through it.
Yeah. Well, and I noticed I had 5 different sets of BDUs, no, 4 different sets of BDUs and 1 real tree. And I did a bunch of different testing. I didn't show it all because I didn't want the video to be 6 hours long. But when you put them on the forest, a lot of them had too much white. I mean, brand new Army looked like it was glowing. I can't remember the ASU and all the different BDU code word stuff for the different ones, but there was a huge difference just for the fact that the way the sun either hit it and then magnified like the lighting on it to almost look like there was a spotlight on it. You know, it didn't work. It didn't work very well. And I was trying to keep everything consistent. So when I put your stuff along with the other stuff, you know, I wanted to not give anybody any extra, you know, like try to be one-sided. But I kept noticing the other stuff kept popping out, especially the real tree, that 3D with the leaves, that kind of stuff. I think of it as a chicken, you know?
Yeah.
It's like having feathers everywhere. That stuff, even though it was kind of the right color, the white in it, there was too much white in it, or it just like glowed. But the one that glowed probably the worst out of them was the Army issue, whatever the hell it's called, ASU or whatever that camo is called.
Well, here's part of the challenges of finding a fabric. You know, I look at, you know, obviously the way light bounces off it. So you've got fabrics that are polyester cotton, you've got nylon cotton, nylon. Everybody has a different light bounce. So basically it's called diffuse. Diffuse is what your fabric sucks that light out, and that's what gives it more of a mute. Kind of like when you think of heavy metals, gold and things like that. The specular highlight tells you that it's gold because it's diffuse. The light is being sucked out of it. It's so dense that it doesn't get a chance to bounce. And when it does show a highlight, it's actually kind of an odd, that's why you can tell it's metal, because it's got that color into the highlight, where a highlight off something else more is a white highlight. So when you look at so it's challenging to compare multiple products together like you're doing, because every one of them's got a different white point on how that light hits it and bounces off, that specular bounce. So some, when you've got them in an environment, they'll glow a little bit more than other ones, and then you take that same one and you put it into a glowing environment, you know, where you're out in the open, more deserty. It works much better there than it does. So it's more of a pattern that's specifically kind of designed for a certain area, where this pattern is really kind of designed for, you know, multiple environments, multiple seasons. So you look at your errors and you go back to that, okay, how do I balance these errors out so that I can get the most universal pattern and universal light bounce and everything off it. And, you know, you make a lot of guesses, and then you make a lot of fine adjustments to the colors in it. You take advantage of that bounce, how it's going to bounce off. And when I originally designed this pattern, this was not a tan layer. This was almost a white layer, because I really like Predator camouflage. That's a camouflage I thought was, you know, a fantastic product. And I'm not going to be a guy that sits on here. I won't rip on camouflage companies, but I'm not afraid to praise somebody else when they've got a good camouflage. And they had a lot of white in theirs, and I like that balance in it. But I noticed that you see your movement a lot more. So if you're slow stalking through the woods and you've got white on you, you're going to be spotted a little bit quicker if that white was muted down a little bit. So I ended up going with this muted tans with it, and then just variegated those tans to be lighter and darker.
That's one of the things I really appreciate about this camouflage is I did a video a long time back about there is no black in the woods. There's really no black. There's very, very dark browns, but nothing is black unless you went into a forest that had burnt, you know, and stuff's just starting to come back.
Yeah.
And a lot of the companies, like old tiger stripe stuff that they used in Vietnam, yeah, those were deep, dark jungles, you know, and it worked, you know, and there was a lot of black in there as well. But if you take the forest with all the different colors and you pull every color out of it, there's really nothing black in the forest. And that's where I felt like this stuff really helped work, because if you're already in a shadowed environment, it's going to reflect, like you said, darker, because there's not as much stuff bouncing off of it.
Yeah, you're gonna. That was one of the ideas of designing it with, you know, the most important factor is light. Light really is just bouncing, carrying light with it, and giving you a color. So the green, like the greens in here, some of the green in it is rather bright, especially when you kind of look at it in really good lighting.
Yeah,
it seems really, really almost like a neon green type thing. What's neat about it is put it out 15 feet away and then walk back another 30 feet from it, and you will not notice the green anymore, because the brown around it will dominate it, and then we'll blur those two together, and you get this really neat muted, you know, earth tone army green out of that whole thing. But when you're right up close to it, you know, it feels rather of a bright green. But the idea is that, you know, you want to have it start to blur together a little bit, and then, you know, you eventually get 20 or 30 yards away, you're these really neat different blurs of color in there.
Yeah. Nope. Shit, I got myself clicked on here. No, for sure.
Somebody commented on spandex there, and you know, learning the industry, and when the spandex revolution came around with women wearing spandex and they've got their tights on and stuff, you know, the marketing geniuses at the big companies like, how do we get men to wear spandex? Because they'll wear this stuff. So they're like, well, let's come up with a cool name for it. How about compression wear? Now that sounds masculine. Yeah. Compression wear is tights. You're wearing tights. You're wearing compression wear. There's no difference between that and the women. It's the exact same material. It's laid out and cut very much the exact same way, the body type. So I always found it funny when how marketing in manufacturing drive to come up with a new word to sell it to guys, even though it's for girls. And, you know, in the suit industry, one of the things that's interesting that I, you know, learned, the guy that built my jackets, Mr. Moon, he is a professional suit tailor. And that's what he did for, you know, 20 years or so. And now he works right next door to me at Evergreen Apparel. Suits are called slim suits, and everybody knows in the suit industry what a slim suit is. You know, they couldn't sell you slim clothes, so we have to rename that. We call that athletic cut now. We have an athletic cut apparel, which I think that apparel works great if you have that athletic type body. Well, my body is a fairly decent size, but my back's arched a little bit different. My arms carry a little bit different. So a slim fit doesn't fit perfect for me. So this camouflage that I designed, I wanted more of a loose fit, kind of a, you know, not baggy loose, still a nice looking fit, but it's not compression wear. It's not athletic cut.
It's not tight at all. I hate tight shit. I will not.
So
I wear shirts that are large. I don't, even if I had big ass muscles, I'm not the guy that wears the shirt that, you know, is, because it's not me. I don't want tight stuff. If I wanted to be restricted, I would fucking wrap myself in bubble wrap, and, you know what I mean? I mean, come on. Yeah, you got to be able to move.
There's so many, you know, funny terms that you learn. I mean, you know, a lot of people manufacturing are putting, you know, hey, I've got Tex 100 in the pants, which is, you know, my pants are sewn with Tex 40, the jackets with Tex 30, and the T30, T40. As you get higher numbers, you get a bigger, heavier thread. Basically, the way you sew it then, so you can use a little bit lighter thread, like the seam on the pant, it is serged, which gets a double lock stitch plus the wrapping stitch. Then that's folded on the inside, and then it's got a double top stitch on that. So it's got 4 lock stitches going on it. You'll rip the material.
That's still on the same as the jacket?
Yeah, you'll rip the material before you'll blow that out. And so going to a heavier thread sounds cool because it might be a selling point, but, you know, everything has a consequence. So, you know, a heavier thread means more of feeling it, more of it rubbing back and forth. Now, it's, you know, the tool guys at Pixar would design tools for me that I request or work with, and they were very proud of that tool and very, very good at defending it. And then I just asked them, well, sit down at my desk here and use this tool for 20 minutes for me. And they'd sit down and they'd use it and they're like, wow, my hand hurts. And it's like, exactly. Now imagine me using that 8 hours, 9 hours a day straight. Same with apparel. Apparel might feel good when you get it on right away and it's got this heavy duty stitching. But when you walk in the field in it back and forth, that rubbing for 4 hours or whatever starts to, wear its toll on you. So
yeah, especially when you run around your nutsack.
yeah, so it definitely, so there's ways that you can manufacture by using a little bit of a lighter thread and then go ahead and then doubling that up or tripling that stitch up to get just as strong as hold. And then once you've got a stitch that holds that so tight that you'll rip the material before you rip the stitch, you don't need to go any heavier thread, except for it's just going to cause more weight and cause more irritation.
Now there's a couple people wanting maybe to possibly order some for testing or whatever. You're still doing the 20%, I think I just saw on your website.
Yes.
Right? 20%.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you guys get a chance and you look interested, and I'm seriously not trying to sell his stuff. I mean, Brian, I hope you sell a ton. I'm here to tell you that it works. That's my job as a guy doing YouTube stuff, and to get it out there. I think the biggest thing for me, and the reason why I'm actually excited about kind of trying to help Brian push Gulch Gear, is because I'm tired of the big companies just making stuff that they think is going to work, or they don't even care if it works as long as it sells, or they put a price on it because they already have a name. They could basically make whatever they want, and people are going to buy their crap. If you're going to spend the money, buy something that actually works, and I'm not saying that all theirs doesn't work, but what I'm saying is those big companies that have the huge names, they don't give a shit if you're buying their stuff or not, because there's so many people that once you hear Realtree or whatever the case is, it's these guys like Brian here that are a small company that actually designed something better, but have no way of getting the information out because it costs so much, to do, commercials and testing. And how do you get, all you guys that are in the hunting industry out there, tell your buddies about this stuff. Get, whether they like it, they don't like it, at least get the hunters to get a chance to actually see what's out there that people aren't every day going to see, So hopefully this video kind of helps. It's obviously awesome to talk to an owner. It's awesome that an owner actually wants to talk to you guys out there as well and answer your questions. I think that's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, the thing that I wanted to do was build, a great quality product and make it in America. And one of the biggest challenges of that is, how do you keep that cost down? It is expensive, but I think the more I learn, the more I get educated, and the better way to do things, I'll be able to bring that cost down and then continue to, pass that cost along to the customer. A couple other things that, you got to put a warranty on something. You've got to put a return policy on something. You see all these companies out there, the big boys, definitely, hey, it's for life. Well, I had a pair of LL Bean boots I sent back every 3 years and got a brand new pair until, that style went out. I think I did it for 20 years. At the time I thought that was kind of cool because I'm getting a free pair of boots every time these wear out. They guarantee it for life. But for me, if something goes wrong with the material, something's bad, you don't like it, you're frustrated, after you got it on the field, whatever, call me, talk to me, I'm going to make it right. And if that means returning and me losing the money to keep the customer, I'll do that. And, there'll be people that take advantage of it. There'll be other people that don't take advantage of it. But I just look at, you've got to have, apparel wears out. This shirt right here is going on over 50 washes. The material's starting to break down. You dig around in the dirt and do things, and material starts to break down. It's going to eventually fail. It has a life. So I don't warranty it for the life of the garment. It's basically kind of like warranted for the life of the usable life of a thing. But like, again, if you're frustrated and unhappy with it and whatnot, let's call, let's talk, and let's make it right. And if making it right is getting your money back, so be it. you know, I think that's an honest way of doing things. But when you go to my website and you read the stuff, you've got to put something down there because law requires it. Here's a good example of law. If something blows out on the pants and you want it fixed, my fault, your fault, doesn't really matter. You're going to send it back to me. By law, it has to be laundered and clean. Well, you know what? You come out of a field after 2 weeks and you've been, you know, humping in this thing and it smells like a dirty dish rag. I don't care how much you wash it. It's going to be tough to get that out. Guess what? I'm going to fix it, repair it, or replace it, regardless of the smell. I think that is a rule that I'm going to break, bend, twist a little bit. But I think that's the right thing to do, not to send it back to you and go, sorry, this thing stinks, I'm not going to repair it, and make you mad. Well, that, you know, to me just seems like bad business. So I look at my business, what I'm trying to do is a fair deal. It's a fair deal for you and a fair deal for me. I might win a little bit on this deal, you might win a little bit on this deal, but when we walk away from this table, we feel good. And you know, and if it means for me to refund and give somebody their full refund on something because they're 100% unhappy and they still go into a forum and they bash the crap on me and my company and my name, that's their opinion. It's just like the Camouflage. It's your opinion. What I'm trying to do is just make a company that's fairly small. I'd like to make a living at this. This is nice to do that. But more importantly, I want to employ Americans. I want to help build a product in America, that we can build something over here. It's, you know, it just takes more people to step up and say, hey, I want to make it here and I'm going to make it here. Well, I'm going to make it here and I'm making it here. I haven't got it all here yet. I mean, the material is, you know, made and built in Japan, but you know, you go to Polar Tag, you go to all these different companies that are American companies. They don't make the product here anymore. They do make products that are already pre-dyed and pre-striped and all that type of stuff, but they don't make stuff that is PFP, which gets rid of my UV signature, which allows me to print. So, yeah, it's
that's hard. That's the hard battle. I mean, one of the battles I was talking to Brian about was the gloves, and he's like, I can't find a good manufacturing company that makes gloves in America.
Yes,
and that's one of the reasons you don't have any yet.
Yeah, and I, you know, I want to make a pair of gloves. There's a company in New York that I had made a couple samples for me, which were good samples, and the price wasn't too bad. I think it was like $9.40 a glove. But the challenge was the fabric. I needed a different fabric for the inside of the palm, and trying to find that fabric in the States, I couldn't find it. So I put that on hold because I didn't want to import in from outside the country for such a small amount of fabric. You know, I could get 1,000 gloves, let's say, out of a few hundred yards versus, you know, having to buy a minimum quantity of, you know, $10,000 worth of material or something.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the, you know, hurdles. The hats had them made here locally. They're different. They're smaller brim. They're super lightweight. You know, like I said, you're going to love it or you're going to like it or you're going to hate it. There's, you know, I'm not going to say, you know, everybody says I got the best this and the best that. I think I have good stuff. I think it's going to be better stuff the more that I can get positive and negative feedback from people that tells me, you know, what do they like and what they don't like.
Now, here's a good example right here. Let me click on this. These are the things, unless you're looking at them or know what you're looking for. So the height of the brim, right, is what, 1.5 inches?
It's supposed to be 1 7/8 inches, but I think it ended up being 1 3/4 inches.
Okay, so, and that is the perfect height. And the reason why that's perfect height is it doesn't like flap down in your face and cover your eyes or your ears. But here's the cool thing is you take this height from here to here, from this seam here to here. This is the front of the hat.
Yep.
But if you take it from the back to the front, or from the top to the bottom in the back, it's taller. Most boonie hats, this is more fitted to your head, where the other ones are just big and flappy. And you know, and I wore this all day at the grocery, not all day. I took this out to the grocery store, and I was, my son's looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? You know, and I'm like, I actually enjoy this hat. Like, it's not where it's all covering your eyes and shit, so it's cool. And
yeah, it's got a double interface, gluable interface in it, which gives it a lot more body than, you know, a typical boonie that's got that, you know, super waviness in it. And the shorter brim is, you know, just to give enough to to cut the light by bending your head forward to block it. And then like what you're doing, you can style it in different, different ways just by adding, pressure and bending it and whatnot. But it's designed to have great peripheral vision, so that's not being cut off at all. It's designed to give a little bit of relief. But this is more, the boonie hat type style. I'm just a boonie hat type wearing person. I love my boonie hats. I'm going to do baseball caps, definitely. I'm going to do skull caps and other things like that. But what I thought would be great for, starting out a company is instead of having, so many multiple products, why not, I got a hat, I got a shirt, I got a jacket, and I got a pair of pants. Basically, the KISS rule, just keep it nice and simple, simple pockets, simple, just simple. And then listen to my customers' feedback, and then design accordingly to that feedback. And I think, going out and just trying to go like, I want pockets everywhere on this, because the more pockets, that's what everybody wants. Well, from some feedback that I got, a lot of people at the Sportsman Show here in Portland, where I had a booth, a lot of people were like, I just like one pocket on here, no pockets, or, that was a lot of feedback. A lot of people, there was no pockets on the jacket. Everybody had an opinion on where they wanted that pocket to put that rangefinder. I thought a cool one from a younger guy was, he was talking about on the sleeve right here, how about a little tiny pocket here, almost like you put an SD card in, for your computer. And that was so that when he was elk calling, he could pull that out and he could stuff that in there when he was, I forgot what his example was, but he didn't like putting that in another pocket or trying to do something or dropping it, but he thought that was a cool little pocket design. And, I looked at it, I was like, wow, that might be a neat idea. That wouldn't cost, because it could be also an SD card. So, every design can kind of, move it a little different direction to.
Or the read calls.
Yeah, for the read calls.
Yeah,
that's exactly what he was talking about, putting that read call in there.
Yeah, when I was in Wyoming, I worked on a hunting ranch, and they were big into the read calls because it was nice. It didn't take any room. You threw it in your mouth, and you could walk and talk and still have your read call in.
Yeah, and the other thing on that jacket pocket, the inside one, right, or the pockets that go on the jacket, that goes all the way up to the shoulder on the inside. You can put your hand in it and go all the way up. You can put a full length, I think, bugle in there. And it was one of those things I was going to cut that pocket short, similar to, so it runs all the way the length up to the shoulder on the jacket. Oh,
you're talking about this part?
Yeah, on that guy.
The actual.
Okay, so see, that panel goes all the way up, and I could have stopped it halfway, so it was just like a normal pocket. But what's neat about it going all the way up, it gives it a nice, clean, finished look on the inside. So you got a nice, clean finish look. The other neat thing about it is because that is a high-quality mesh, that lives off your skin a little bit and actually helps in your evaporation and your vap cooling and transferring that body heat out, because now you don't have a flat material laying against your flat skin. You've got a perforated material. And, I could have saved, I don't know, 50 cents to, on material and $1 in production on, not having to sew all that extra stuff in there. But I thought it would be neat to have a nicer, cleaner looking, finish on the jacket, and that people will appreciate that and pay that extra $1.50 more. And I'm not turning around and going like, well, I'm going to sell that to you for $7 more. I just was like, and if people don't like it and they would rather have it cut short down, there's an opportunity on the next type of jacket to design that in there. And the nice thing about the patterns that I've got for these, they were designed by a gal that used to work at Adidas and Nikes. My grading was done by a gal that worked 20 years at Columbia Sportswear. So I'm working with people that work a lot with technical fabrics and technical sewing and things like that. And one of the nice things is it's just like my characters when I worked on them at Pixar. I'm not in love with them. I just, if people say, hey, I absolutely hate the way this feels here, I'd like to see more there, no big deal. I'll go spend the extra. It doesn't cost that much, maybe another 2 hours of pattern work, at 75 bucks. So it's $150 to make a slight change. Then of course you have to have it regraded, which might cost another $100 or something. But I'm willing to make those changes because I can make them very quick. My pattern maker and my grader, they're right here in Portland. My manufacturers are right here in Portland. I have a new one that I'm working with called Watershed down in Salem, but they're only an hour drive away. And I can just go ahead and implement those changes right into production and be updating. But the challenge with doing that is you can always run into the problem is like, you know, you've got version A or version 1, then version 2, then version 3, then nobody wants to buy version 1 anymore. They want to buy version, you know, the latest and greatest. So, you know, I've got to figure that part of the business out on how to implement and roll things through. But I definitely want to make those adjustments and changes according to what, you know, people like and don't like.
Now, I got a question for you because we talked about it. For the pants, are you going to run the button fly or the zipper? And I know which one I prefer, but I don't know what you're doing.
I ran the button fly because I love the 501s. Growing up, you know, in the 80s, they were cool, and I liked Triple Lot Designs, Tad Gear out of San Francisco. They, you know, that's when I first was introduced to the bar button because it has a bar, and you know the way the Grosgain weaves through it. I thought that was really neat because all my buttons, you know, on my military, you know, pants and whatnot, they end up coming undone eventually. You know, give them a few hundred buttons and they start to fray and get loose. So I thought, you know, doing this button with a sublimated webbing in there would be really cool. It turned out to be very expensive, production-wise, and the zipper just makes better sense. So I did a set of pants with the buttons, and now I'm switching over to all zippers. So I've got zippers in mediums, large, and extra large, and then I've got buttons in smalls and 2X, and then those other 3 sizes too. But it was a cost by manufacturing. It took them a long time because there's a bar tack between.
I'm looking at it right now, and there is a lot that goes into having this button here. Here, hold on. Let me show these guys. This is the same button you're talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you got that piece of strap that goes down and through.
And it's a double strap.
So all that shit together. But it's built like a brick shithouse. I like it.
Yeah.
You got a comment out there from Daniel. He prefers the buttons, and it's easy to fix, and I give him that. I'm more of I'd rather have a zipper. I used to wear 501s as a kid, but I prefer the zipper for a few reasons. It's easier if you're gloved to take a piss, you know, or whatever out in the woods. But
one of the other things with the button.
Yeah, either way you go, I think you're going to be set.
Yeah, the buttons was the other silent thing. You know, a zipper makes some sort of sound, and I know, nobody really cares about that type of sound because you're probably not going to be shooting something while you're adjusting your zipper on your fly or whatnot. But you know, I just thought that buttons would be quieter. The button holes on there are a keyhole buttonhole. It's got a double gimp layer in it on the top and the bottom. So the gimp is this fine wool string that is actually sewn when the buttonhole is sewn around it. And it's a fairly snug buttonhole. The reason why it's snug is that anticipation of it wearing and getting a little bit bigger. One of the frustrating things about pants is when you get a buttonhole that fits great when you first start out, but after, you know, a year or two, that buttonhole is nice and loose and doesn't hold your button anymore. These guys are built like like you say, they're built tough with that double gimp in there, giving that extra hold around that stitching that goes around that buttonhole. So they're a quality little buttonhole.
Well, I was trying to comment on the button thing, and the good thing is, I mean, if you're gonna see a zipper on any gear, you know, YKK is always nice to see, and that's what's on here. So it's not like you put some shitty zipper that's gonna, you know, that can just get all mangled up a couple days later. It's a good zipper.
It's a number 5 YK Vislon zipper made in Atlanta. You know, they make that same zipper, and I could have chosen the colors for like the teeth. So I could have varied the teeth, some of the cool browns and greens, and I could have custom done those colors. And it really wasn't that much more. It would have cost me maybe, let's say, zipper. I think those zippers are 96 cents a piece or something. I mean, they might even be cheaper than that. But it was going to add, let's say, another 75 cents on it. So yeah, that sounds like a lot because you're almost doubling it. But it's only $1.75, let's say, versus. But it's cool looking. They don't make those in the States. Those are all made in Japan. And one thing that I could control in this production was every component that goes in, from the thread to the webbing to the buckles to the buttons, all that I can get in the States. And I felt if I went out and I actually did that and I made a zipper over there, that's something that I could have gotten in the States. And I'd rather have it cool, solid color made in the States than the fancy camouflage color not made in the States.
Yeah, well, it's a perfect green you picked anyways. Who cares?
That was funny. That's green 342, I believe. YKK 342. Yeah, it just happened to fit.
You're such a freaking fabric nerd now.
Oh, there was a guy that was awesome. We were at the Sportsman Show, and a lot of people don't know what the Sportsman Show is. It's I had a 10 by 20 booth there, and they get about 65,000 people through it. It's mostly fishing people. I think out of the 65,000, maybe 10 or 11,000 are hunters. But anybody that hunts or fishes, you can gather a lot of people hunts. But the show is mostly for fishing. Some gentleman comes up to the booth, and he's standing there, and he's looking at the camouflage, and he's got this puzzled look on it, and he's like, what kind of thread do you have in that? And I looked at him for a second. I'm like, do you really want to know? And he's like, yeah, I do. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it's A&E Permacore. It's Tex 30, Tex 40 in that. It is, and I went to explain to him about the whole thread thing, and he goes, you know what you need? You need to have copper thread in there because camouflage doesn't work at all. Camouflage, they still can see your electronic signal, your electric signal. So camouflage is useless. They're going to see you there anyways. And he went on to lecture me for 5 minutes on how camouflage is useless because you got this electric, you got to have copper threads sewn in, and you want to have threads dangling off of your feet to touch the ground, to ground you. So now you're truly invisible. So it doesn't matter what you're wearing.
Was he wearing an aluminum hat?
Oh yeah. So I met so many characters that had, really good advice like that to me online. I had a guy, tell me, he looked at my women's line that I had there. They were looking at prototypes of the women's jacket. And I made the women's jackets. My women's line is designed for petite little women. Size 2, size 4, size 6, size 8, size 10. They're very slim, very tiny. And I looked at that because that was the market that nobody was making for. You can just wear kids' clothes, they tell those type of women. Well, they don't want to wear kids' clothes. They want to wear their women's clothes.
Yeah, cut for a woman.
Yeah, they want to cut for a woman, and they want to cut for petite women. Some women are petite. Not all American women are these, women that are perceived in the world. Some of them are actually petite too. And
some of them are friggin' hot. Yeah,
and this guy comes up to me and he goes, I noticed your women's line there. It's designed all wrong. And, I'm ready for get beat up on any critique. And I'm like, okay, can you explain to me why it's wrong? And he looked at it, he goes, because women aren't built like that. Women are bigger. Women are this. And he went in to explain how his ideal hunter women is perceived to see. And listened to him for, it chewed up another 10 minutes and, agreed with him because I'm not there to make an opinion. I figure I'm there just to, listen. And every woman that came by, you want to try on a jacket? And they would jump in it and they try this on, and they would just, the smile on their face because it actually fit them. They were these petite little women. And then some other women that tried it on, that were a little bit, not necessarily, let's say, fuller figure, but just had a larger chest, 30, 40 size type double D's, it didn't work. And I explained to them, it's not that I'm not making that camouflage jacket yet for you. It's just that it requires, and I explained to them a little bit, I need to make a new pattern. The pattern needs to be designed for somebody that has this type of body proportions, and then that needs to be graded. I didn't want to be a company that just makes it bigger and bigger and bigger, and then, a gal's got to fit around her chest the way she likes, but there's so much in her back and so big in her arms because she's got normal petite arms.
Yeah.
So But some of the advice from people is, you know, interesting. And this guy was talking about, the guy that was about the electrical signal, he was talking about this company that's making a carbon fiber, you know, something. And he goes, yeah, and I think it's basically about $1,500 to $2,000 for a jacket.
Is that a hex suit?
I don't know what they were talking, he was referring to, but his price that he threw out was like, I'm like, well, that's great, but I don't think people are going to buy a $1,500 lightweight jacket to go out hunting in to hide their electrical, you know, signal.
Sounds like a Harry Potter cloth.
Yeah, it was very interesting. So, you know, I'm open for any suggestions. You guys can call me, you can email me, you can email support@gulchgear.com or btindall at gulchgear.com. And, you know, I try to get back to everybody as fast as possible and try not to BS too long, because I can just go off ranting.
Yes, he can. You won't know half this shit. I'm just sitting there going, I was sitting there talking to him yesterday going, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah.
But I want to get back to the giveaway. So we are, well, Brian's giving away some of the stuff. I'm going to be doing a video. But if you guys, a lot of you guys on YouTube that already make videos, get a VR set up and ready to go. Give you kind of the head, give you a little heads up before it gets out there. But we're going to be doing a giveaway, and we're going to be giving away some awesome stuff. I keep saying we. I guess I'm helping, right?
Sure.
So get your VR, go to his website and show like stuff. And this, we're trying to get people to promote Gulch Gear so that a lot of the hunters, because the hunting season's coming back up, deer season stuff, you know, help them push the envelope by getting his name out there. So,
I wanted to make one comment on that some people have commented on. Why did I leave the durable water repellent off of this warm weather clothing? One of the reasons is durable water repellent is, the stuff is pretty nasty for the environment. It's terrible. It's fluorocarbons, I believe. I'm not an expert on it, but I think it's Ninwax. They're a fluorocarbon free. So if somebody wanted to add, they can just add that into the wash or spray it on. But the more importantly was the bacteria that we produce on our body, and these new sprays. You know, 10 years ago, these scent sprays, the silver ions and the different things were kind of a, you know, borderline gimmick, scientific. Now they become very scientific, and it's, you know, a bacteria that targets another bacteria and kills it, right? Well, if you've got a durable water repellent on your clothes and you go to spray that on there, it hits, it beads up and runs off. It doesn't get a chance to penetrate down into the fiber at the molecular level and get into that fiber and kill that bacteria. It still can put a durable water repellent on, because I do understand where people have come from. You know, hey, I'm walking through some, you know, it's gonna be a warm day, but I'm walking through some damp environment, and, you know, the durable water repellent actually, you know, keeps my legs from getting wet. But they dry out really, really quick. So I looked at it, okay, what choice do I make? I thought that the benefit of being able to use some of those sprays, so you can spray it on, it penetrates into that fiber, kills that bacteria, outweighed a little bit of a discomfort in a warm weather, because it's got holes in it anyways. You pour water on, it's going to fly right through it anyways, through those little holes. But the fluorocarbons that are being used over in Asia and these different companies, they're just damaging to the environment. They really, and I'm not some, you know, green guy that is trying to make, you know, the best, you know, group, you know, green free or whatever, green product, but I'm trying to actually do my part when I can actually see something that I can change a little bit. And if I were to get a waterproofing on it, unfortunately, it's going to be the fluorocarbon kind. That's what the manufacturers use. That's the only choice I have. I do not have a choice of where I can say, hey, can you put fluorocarbon-free durable water repellent on it, because it doesn't destroy the environments. They don't. But that's the reason why I left the durable water repellent off, so you can use the scent spray, penetrates in, and does its job the way it should, not shedded, you know, not shed right off because of a durable water repellent.
Good points. Good points. And if you want to stay dry, wear something underneath it that's going to keep moisture from getting to your skin.
Well, I have my ridiculously overpriced rain jacket like everybody else that buys these rain jackets. I have a triple aught design one with Schuler fabric. It's their C fabric. It actually tightens up when it's cold, and it actually expands and is more breathable when it's warm. It's a fancy high-tech fabric. I got it into I got it in a nice neutral earth tone green, because I really like a rain jacket. Being here in Portland, especially when it just rained for the last 9 months straight on us, I wanted to go out in public and wear my rain jacket, but I didn't want to wear camouflage. I feel kind of dorky wearing camouflage rain jacket, everywhere I go. What's nice about this, because it is so highly breathable, I just put that rain jacket on for hunting. I put my Gulch Gear right over the top of that. Now I got a rain jacket that could be fluorescent pink from LL Bean, and you can cover it right up with the camouflage, and you've got a working rain jacket with camouflage on it. It doesn't necessarily have to, because it's such a highly breathable material, it's not locking in all that moisture.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna switch cameras here. I'm gonna go back over to your sites again, and I want you guys to get a chance, go friend him on Facebook, go check out his Instagram, sign up if you have that stuff, show him some support. He's just like every small company that's trying to get out there and get his name done, and use your friends, share it. But if you have any questions that you want to ask Brian, now's the chance. Let me get to the right stuff. So here's Gulch Gear Facebook. Basically, you can see it there.
I see somebody's already got Ohio against Michigan.
Oh yeah, man! I tell you what, we're very competitive in the YouTube love of anything. I mean, I put a video out on how many times can you reload this in a matter of seconds, and then my buddy will do one, and it's just a friendly competition. And it sounds like they're going to do some hunting ones coming up here. So
yeah, I'm definitely.
Here is,
go ahead.
Here is your Instagram account. It's Gulch. I got Coda Boy calling me right now. Gulch_gear. Go check out his Instagram. And this is how you guys can also win. If you don't do videos, if you're, I know some of you channels out there, you don't like doing VRs, video responses. This is how you're going to be able to be in. You must follow him and go if you want to do the Instagram win, or Facebook. Basically both. It'll give you more chances to win his clothing. And this is, if you can save a couple bucks and get to try out his stuff, I mean, hell, awesome. If you don't end up winning, make sure you get over to his webpage here. This is his gulchgear.com. 20% off right now with free shipping, which is huge. But you would be amazed at the radical transparency. I'm going to go to it. I've never seen anything like this in any company ever. And you could basically click on like a jacket. It'll tell you the weights. It'll tell you the cost that it costs him to make. All this stuff you would never see in any other company. This is what it would be with the 20% off. You got price calculations. This is just shit that he's putting out there because he's a top quality guy. I mean, you're not going to see big companies doing this crap. So, and kudos again for that. I mean, that's awesome. Just 100% transparency. Well done. Well deserved. So, thanks.
Yeah, and the pricing is one of the biggest challenges you always have when you try to do this, because as a smaller company, I'm selling more of myself stuff when I put it on sale. I sell, way more. So the margins in there and the calculator and all that stuff. I'm new at business. I got a degree in industrial design. I've been doing animation for the last 20 years. But I've learned a lot about business. To me, a lot of common sense and listening to your customers' feedback, admitting when you're wrong. The stuff that I have is good stuff. Is it the best? No. There is no best stuff. Art is abandoned, just like clothing. You have to abandon it and actually manufacture it eventually. But, decisions that you make along the way, I'm not going to, I'm not purposely ever trying to deceive anyone. So there's mistakes that I'm going to make and trip up and whatnot. One of the things that I You know, I've been trying to figure out how do I run sales without screwing somebody who just bought my stuff 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, or a month ago. And I look at it as like, well, if I'm going to run a sale, I would like to have at least 30 possible days, if not more, before I put it on sale again. Because if you just bought it, you know, at $200 for a jacket, and then all of a sudden a week later it's on sale, you give me a call, I'll refund the difference for it right away. I mean, that just, that makes good business sense. I mean, you know, will I do it a year later? Probably not. Twist my arm hard enough, you know, and I might, because I look at, you know, how fair of a deal it is. And I'll ask that question to you. Do you think that's a fair deal? And somebody will think, you know, that's a fair deal. Somebody will think it's not a fair deal. But I'm not going to be one of these dickhead manufacturers or companies that all of a sudden treats their customer not the way they should be treated. Now, it's funny about the manufacturing side. As a manufacturer, I get treated like dirt. So, you know, since I'm not coming in there and buying 100,000 yards or whatever like that, I've got to walk on eggshells trying to work with factories or suppliers and stuff like that. And it's 100% opposite of retail. So, yeah, I had to learn, you know, I had to learn so much patience. That was actually a good thing, because it really helps you out dealing with, you know, other challenges that come up in production.
Well, you got a lot more, you got quite a few extra people on your Instagram and your Facebook stuff, so that's cool. You got someone that does YouTube only, which is Daniel. So hopefully he does a video VR out there, help promote your stuff for you. And that's what we need. We need channels to talk about it, you know, and just get the name out there. So when you type in Gulch Gear, you know, there's people that'll, you know, like right now, if you type in Gulch Gear, because it's not that it's new, but it hasn't been out into the world yet. Those are the first 2 videos, as far as I know, on YouTube. So that I've done. So all that'll help Brian when it comes to someone wanting to know a review on Gulch Gear. They can go to it, and you can hear different people's opinions of it. So. Yeah.
So I'm gonna do like this material. Some people ask, you know, how tough is this dot air? You know, it's quiet, it's soft, it's nice, stretchy. Now, when I say quiet, to me it makes noise. I define quiet as Polartex fleece. You know, that's, you know, that dead quietness. But this is actually, it is very quiet. But the neat thing is I do what I call a torture test. You know, I'm trying to think of, you know, how do you test fabrics and whatnot for durability. My test is I go get a deck screw. Now, this is a pen, but I get a number, I think it's a 16 deck screw for, you know, screwing in a deck. And I take that deck screw and I hammer the crap out of it until I destroy the material. And I was dumbfounded how long this lasted before I mean, I had to stab and jab and grab, I mean, just pound at it to really shred it. But it's a video that I'm going to do later on this week, is I'm gonna show a test on that. I'm going to show a test on like my Polartec material for the long sleeve shirt. Oh man, that stuff is awesome. It really breathes well. It's a looser shirt, very long sleeves on it, but the sleeve cuffs are tight enough that it keeps it from, you know, running off. It's got a nice 2-4-way stretch in it. But you take the deck screw test to that thing, it doesn't hold up that well. It's, you know, basically a great shirt, but it's not meant for busting through multi-flower in Michigan. You will shred it. But I'm going to do a video of that and show that, how that material, that will give you an idea of, you know, hey, what's this material work? I mean, everybody shows, you know, dumping water on, you know, the material, and they kind of show this or that. But grab a deck screw or a heavy nail, which to me represents kind of like the environment out there. And the other thing that I want to do some tests with is to actually throw my jacket over a Carhartt jacket, and when I get back to Michigan next this fall, and go through some of that heavy duty multi-flower, because that shreds a Carhartt anyways. But it would be really neat to see how bad this gets shredded.
Is that like the briar? Is that like those briar bushes out here?
Yeah, they just twist and turn, and whitetails love to hide in them, because it's basically, you got to be a jackrabbit, you know, a rabbit to weave in and out. But boy, they just find that as the best cover, and it's just aggressive. It literally will, you know, grow and take an entire brand new cut down field or forest it'll be multi-flowered over in a few years, and you won't even be able to walk through it.
That's cool. Yeah, we have this thing. I don't know if it's the same, but it's briar, and it's basically like a vine, and it's like a rose bush. You know, those big thorns.
Yep.
Just everywhere on that damn thing, and you'll just be walking through the thing, and that shit'll just fucking hook your shirt, and before you know it, you're bleeding. And
oh yeah, it's brutal. Now the dot air, when you walk through prickers in this dot air stuff, the nice thing about it is you'll feel every single pricker and know you're in a pricker bush. It won't do the damage that you really think a pricker bush is, but it'll tell you just walked into a pricker bush.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of things that I do with, when I design controls for animators, and I work with an animator, and let's say I'm designing a control for face, and it's going to be a smile control, and it's going to be 200 controls are going to make up that smile. And the animator gets it, and he drives it, it's really meant to go to about 100. He drives it to 200. He goes, I want it to go to 200. And I try to explain to them, you know what, you're asking too much out of that control. You've actually got to use these other controls once you get that far. But I don't want to use those other controls, they say. I'm like, well, I can't design something that can do exactly what you want. If you're going to have something that's super lightweight and super quiet, you're sacrificing a little bit of durability. If you want more durability, you're going to get into a little bit louder or a little bit more not as flexible material. So there's always a compromise in there. And then somebody says, hey, well, your clothing sucks. I got to shred it all up. I went through these multi-flowers chasing this big buck, and it tore them all up. And, my thing would probably be, you might have asked a little bit too much out of the apparel to go through something like that. It's like a four-wheel drive truck works awesome off-road. It works great on-road, but if you take a corner like you're in a sports car, you're probably going to roll it. Vice versa with the other car. It's the same with this material. I'd love to get 100% ripstop polyester. It'll toughen up, and I can make some more brush busting type material. But every product that I make, I want to be just honest as can be on what can wreck it, what it can work on, and how other people might have wrecked it.
Here's a question. Brian, will you put your product on felt material for bow hunters that hunt in multi-flower?
The challenge, yes. I'm looking at, I found a material that Polartec has. It's one of their newer Wind Pros. I do a deck screw test on that, and I'm just dumbfounded how it's a very, very tight weave. It has fleece on the inside. It's actually, I think, a little bit quieter than this. But the challenge is with printing on fleece type materials or micro suede type materials is I'm not dyeing like a traditional camouflage is being made with a couple colors and it's actually dyed into it. We're sublimating. Sublimating is a process where you take a printed image and you take a material, you heat them and you put pressure on them. The material ink off gases and bonds molecular with the actual fiber. You don't get that deep of penetration. So it's with dye, you can have real nice Berber microfiber or felt fleece type stuff, and you get a dye that goes really deep penetrating down in it. With sublimation, unfortunately, some of the limitations of it is you only get so much penetration because you can only put so much heat and so much pressure before you start actually damaging the material that it's made out of, the base fabric. But
all right, another question is this stuff resistant to fires, or does it have any type of fire chemical stuff in it? Fire resistant to anything, or?
It is not. It's your typical polyester. If you smoke and drop an ash on you, or reach over for a marshmallow toasting in the fire thing, I don't know. That's a good point, because I can ask the manufacturers on the melting point, fire point, and all that good stuff. But this stuff is not fire resistant. And that's part of when you buy something PFP, that fire resistant coating that they actually put into the clothing. That's a process that's after it's done. So what these guys do is they print the camouflage pattern on it, roll to roll printing. Then they take that and they run that through multiple, fire resistant or water resistance or whatever, antibacterial type things in there. So No, it's not fireproof. It will melt. But here's another kicker. If you put a hole in this stuff, and there's a couple ways I describe in my, apparel care type stuff, how you can fix that. If you take a lighter and light it to melt the edges of it, that works fantastic. But if you get carried away, you can damage the material. Now, here's a warranty question. I hemmed my pants, or I glued a hole shut. That's not voiding your warranty with me. In my stuff, I have to technically write down what my warranty is. But if you fixed or repaired something, that's going to void your warranty. I might not necessarily warranty that little hole that you fixed or that hem on the pant, but most manufacturers, if you go have, these pants and they're too long for you or too short or whatnot, and you alter them a little bit, your whole entire warranty is done. You've already screwed that up. I mean, how many people make little modifications to their apparel because it just doesn't fit them perfectly? So that's another thing, is if you do get a hole in it and this stuff does melt, it's typical polyester. You can repair it that way, but I recommend more using a fabric glue.
Now, we haven't had a chance to talk about, and I don't know how long we've been chatting. Maybe you guys, maybe John or some of you guys can tell us in the end how long we've been yapping for, but you got gun wraps also, and I'm going to do a video on that later. And those are pretty damn impressive, man. I mean, when you put it all together, your whole suit and your gun is exactly the same. I mean, holy shit.
Yeah, it's scary. In fact, some of those pictures that we took down in California with Ryan holding onto the gun there, and they're so close to the camera, it's really amazing how you can't see his fingers that are sitting there holding the stock. It works so well. Yeah, so the camouflage wrap is 3M's best automotive wrap. It is also 3M's best matte, ultra matte finish that goes on there. So basically, I print onto the wrap material, and then I take that and I have that laminated with a matte, because everything you print on is all glossy. So you matte that down, and that puts the protection on there. They're really simple. It's basically a big giant sticker kit. Most people out there are selling them between, I think, you can go to some of the sporting goods stores, and I think there's one that's $29.99, which is the cheapest. And then if you go online, a lot of these different gun wrap places, I think they're in the high 40s, maybe even the low 50s. Right now, I think I'm selling mine for $24.99. It'll do a full gun, depending on the size. You might be able to do the scope with it, but it's like a model kit. If you take your time and watch a lot of great videos out there on YouTube or Vimeo or whatnot on automotive wrapping and gun wrapping, there's some really good ones out there. You can pick up some really neat techniques on relief cuts and how to heat it properly. But it took me maybe 3 hours to do a gun. Some other people have done it really fast in an hour or so, but it's like a model kit to me. It depends on if you wait for the paint to dry, you wait for the glue to dry, how you cut out the parts, and how you put it. I always get the box and I look at my model that I put together. It looks like nothing on the box. And it's now, as I'm older, it's realized I didn't take as much time to actually do it. So when you take your time, let me go grab my bow really quick.
My hardest part is figuring out which one I'm going to put it on. Because I'm like, well, it's kind of set up as it basically has like the barrel piece, it's designed for the barrel. You have like almost the stock piece, and it helps, but it's like, man, what gun do I want to put it on? So I haven't put it on anything yet. Here, let me click on you so you can. God, that looks awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this took a long time. This took about maybe 12 hours over 2 days. It's a lot of little teeny, tiny parts in here. This is a Bowtech, and I took it over. I actually cut the string on this guy when I was doing because you use an X-Acto knife to fine cut stuff, and I nicked the string on the inside here. I'm like, oh, no big deal. This little one piece of string's hopefully it only cost like 20 bucks. I was shocked to know that bow hunting, these are, I don't bow hunt that much. I picked this up about 7 years ago. This is a Bowtech Admiral. It was 150 bucks for the string and installation in the tune.
Oh shit!
I was like, wow. I mean, when I first bought this bow, I couldn't believe a bow cost $1,200 or like I got $1,500 with all the sight and the. I was like, wow. I was in high school. You get a bow and everything together for $180. And but the gun wrap material is neat, and what it does is it does put a waterproofing coating on there. It does help protect it. It easily removes. There's no residue. If you go on the when you go on my website, I got a good explanation of everything on there. In fact, I do not have that one in the radical transparency yet. I haven't done the entire price breakdown on it. But the only downfall of a wrap is it doesn't have the grip of what you would think. But there's other aftermarket things that you can put on there that add grip. One of the things is if you just regular silicone caulk and just put tiny little dots on it. It lasts, but not as long, those little dots, and then you just reapply them or whatnot. But that's one of the downfalls of something like a wrap versus a finish that you can put on there. In fact, there's a couple other Duracoat or one of the other manufacturers. They make a spray that goes on their stuff, but the amount of money they charge for that and everything. What's neat about the gun wrap is it's kind of fun to if you're totally geeked out and want to wrap up a gun, and it's really neat when you're sitting in the woods and you've got camouflage on every head and toe. And like I said before, when you get busted, I think it really helps just everything disappear, when you've got it all camouflaged. But the gun wraps are really neat, and they're pretty simple. In fact, Ryan's son put his together. He was 12 at the time, and he flew through it, and it looked really awesome for a 12-year-old.
He's got some good skills too.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
Yeah. We've been talking for 2 hours now. When I originally talked about this, we were like, yeah, it'll be like an hour max. But we've been enjoying ourselves, obviously. We may do another one of these guys. Hopefully you guys got all your answers or your questions answered. Brian's a good dude. Go check him out, gulchgear.com. Check out Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. Help push your stuff to the hunting community. I know you got buddies out there that are hunters. He would definitely appreciate it. I would definitely appreciate it. Anything else you want to tell the YouTube world before we and when I click off here, we're not going to be live anymore, Brian. This is where all the rookies make mistakes. Don't hit any button, and then we can continue talking.
Right on. No, I just, thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to be able to talk to some people out there. I think if you're into warm weather hunting, give a look-see at my apparel. I think you'll like it. At least I hope you're part of that 33 to 66% that really likes the fit and the cut. But yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Rick, for setting this up, and
yeah,
out there that are watching it.
Well, even if you're not in the hot areas, layer up. You know what I mean? Wear some some stuff underneath it, and it'll be just fine.
Yeah.
But again, guys, appreciate it. If you got the chance and you want to win some awesome gear for a great giveaway, start doing your VRs and all that stuff that we talked about in the chat. But see you guys. Have a great one.
Yeah,
Talk
thank
to you later. All right.